Ellison. For those of you that have not made it to the bios, the most important line on my bio is that Diane and I graduated from Conley High School in Coquitlam, British Columbia in 1957. So we have Canadian blood, but we have frustrations in America. This is going to be highly based on slides because I need the prompting to get this across. The U.S. Ark of Taste is my favorite thing next to Presidium and slow food. And I've been involved since day one. And in 1996, Diane and I went to Bra and were introduced to a person who still works there, Carmen Wallace. She was the only English speaker in the place, but she indoctrinated us, and we came home and established Slow Food Seattle, which it was, I believe, the second chapter or convivium in the United States. The first one was in Portland. So we've been involved for a long time, and the U.S. Ark of Taste has had a tumultuous existence since 1997, I believe, is when it came along. Something's not working here. I'm an IBM guy.
The space bar.
Space bar?
It's a different computer now, I didn't tell you that part.
Oh,
I guess you have to do that one, that one.
okay. Thank you very much. Just a little bit of history. It depends on which website you go to that you get the straight scoop on the Ark of Taste. Everybody has a little bit of a different interpretation in the international, and Lisa has coached me on that many times. And in the United States, we have an Ark Presidia committee that is made up of people in about 9 different regions of the country. And as I mentioned before, we have the Pacific and Northwest, which is California, Oregon, Washington, Hawaii, and Alaska. So there are leaders of those organizations, and we comprise the committee. But in the past, my crude interpretation of what happened after we began the Ark of Taste is that it became constipated. You could not get an application through the Ark of Taste in the U.S. for the life of you, because everybody was very interested in being very precise, and that this was going to be the highest quality and the best description of foods that were supposedly candidates for the Ark of Taste. And so the educated people, the people that wanted to make it very precise, kind of fouled it up for a while. And it actually almost folded in the United States at one time, and then we resurrected it. But I'm just going to take you through a little bit of history because most of you probably know it. But I want to get to the key point that I think is probably the critical factor that it's allowing us to bring the Ark of Taste back online. So the U.S. Ark of Taste was founded in 1997. You already read that, so I can go on to the next one. And the purpose, as called out in the manifesto, was to create a registry of foods. So the Ark of Taste is easily explained as a registry of endangered or underappreciated foods. And I think that's one of the things that we've added a word in the United States. It's not just endangered, it's underappreciated. And that's one of the things that I think we've added to our manifesto. But the manifesto originally said it had to taste good in a cultural context. It needed to be at risk of extinction or underappreciated. We added the underappreciated. That it potentially be sustainably produced, and that it has some regional or cultural or ethnic importance. and that it is sourced from small independent producers. We developed some guidelines, and the basic conditions of governing a recommendation are that the product at least be good, clean, and fair. And the nomination can be made by anyone, but should be sponsored by a slow food chapter. That the nomination by a commercial entity for marketing purposes will not be accepted. And the product that is genetically modified, is from a genetically modified organism or is derived from one, is ineligible. The production must have been, and this is something we added, that it needed to be part of the foodways for at least 25 years. A product with a registered trademark is ineligible. And products that the product cannot actually display the slow food logo. I think we all have been indoctrinated into that. But the Ark of Taste logo may be added to packaging materials, but not on the product itself. This is our kind of guideline to people that are doing a nomination. The nominating chapter needs to be identified, proper identification so we can get back to the person that authored it. The name of the food, its scientific and common names. Physical description, color, size, weight, distinguishing characteristics. If photo illustrations are available, please submit them and include, but please note the application, in the application, that we have permission to reproduce the photographs. They're supposed to identify what the harvesting and growing product is. Does anybody want to guess where the next one's coming from? Whoop. I don't know what's going on here, ladies and gentlemen. I think I was punching the wrong button. When the product is in season, available for purchase. What is the seed sources, and please list them. This is where the cheese gets binding, and these are the 4 characteristics that we have identified as being the things that we focus on as being necessary for the application. One, it must be a pleasurable experience. Characterize the flavor, mouthfeel, and all those sorts of things. And to provide testimonials from chefs. We talked about the endangered or underappreciated. The people making the applications need to tell the story that backs up their belief that it is underappreciated. It has to have a sustainable harvest. There needs to be a demonstration of some regional, ethnic, and economic importance, but it can be in degrees, as you'll see. The list of food producers. Describe the expected result of the product being boarded onto the Ark of Taste. And some biography, or bibliography. It's optional. Now, this is the tool that we use. And I come from a research background, and it was really bothering me that everything that we were doing to evaluate a nomination was so subjective. So we attempted, I did the first draft of this matrix, but we attempted to put some objectivity into the process and to help us do that. And it has become tremendously important. We just had a huge discussion about the salmonberry and whether or not it was something that should be on the Ark of Taste. And through a friend of Sinclair's, Ron Zimmerman, he is probably our regional food scholar who came up with some really interesting information about the salmonberry. That was the berry that they were nominating, but he pointed out that it's the root that was so commonly used by the native, and so you get the early spring shoots and you peel them and they're like eating asparagus. So let's talk about this thing. I'm going to break it down for you. Taste. And you can see that there are 3 levels. So across the top will be the attributes, and down the left-hand column, a good score would be pleasant, the flavors are enjoyable, distinguishable, and unique. And so we have attributed a number to each one of those, 1, 2, and 3. And then the next one is the product history, and you can go through that. It has limited connection with the product, with an ethnic group or regional importance. There are existing connections, and there are strong connections, so that it doesn't have to hit every one of those, but to some degree it has to exhibit that. And then the endanger of risk is rare, threatened, and endangered. And fourthly, the sustainable harvest or production. And so it's possible for a few or no sustainable sources that currently exist. Production does not require harmful environmental practices, and then inherent, all known producers follow sustainable practices. So those are the scores that someone can get on an application by the people who are evaluating it. Now, why won't it do what it's supposed to do? There we go. So we have an evaluation process that we've published, the evaluation of the Ark of Taste submissions, and generally is the application complete enough, because lots of people that are doing these nominations haven't done anything like that before, and so we're trying to guide them through what items need to be addressed. The committee looks at the thing and say, is this complete? Can we evaluate it in its present form? Are the chapter and offers properly identified? Is the product described in enough detail to visualize it with no available? And what about the product's taste? And the characteristics, as well as the testimonials that they provided. Is the story about the need to lift up this product compelling? The last one is, of course, sustainability. And number 8, does it have a regional ethnic relationship? Does it have some relationship to the community in which it's being used? So here's our evaluation form. Very, very simple. We look at the 4 attributes and we score 1 through 3. And it must achieve a 1 in each category to be acceptable. And what we do is we accept, reject, or ask for a resubmission with clarification, and we write notes to the people that need it. So that is kind of the process. Now, the other part that I haven't put in this presentation to bore you even further is the way we've set up the structure of our committee, and if anybody wants to talk about that, I can bring that along. Now I'd like to talk about something I think we need to really work on, and that's Presidium, or Presidia. Multiple is Presidia, and Presidium is the one you're talking about. So, oh, that's backwards. Developing a Presidium. We have done that, and I think it's one of the most exciting things we could be thinking about as a major component of slow food. In 1999, Presidia began in Italy as a working arm of the Ark of Taste. And in 2000, 90 Italian Presidia were presented at the Salone del Gusto, and it received a lot of attention. And in 2009, there were 19 international Presidia that were debuted at Salone del Gusto. In the US, we have 6 Presidia. We can't see them all. We have the American raw milk cheeses, and these are all in various states of their development. Some of them were very, very active and produced a lot of marketing capability for the members of the Presidia. The Cape Bay salt oyster, the Macaw Ozette potato, the Navajo churro sheep. I think the bottom one is the marbled Chinook salmon, which is a unique salmon that actually spawns in the Vedder Crossing in Chilliwack. what does Presidium mean? This is something that everybody struggles with. What is the meaning of Presidium? And I simply went to the Webster's Dictionary, and I found these key words. An administrative body, and the adjectives were guarding, and the noun was defender. And so I made the interpretation that slow food may be considered as a body of community resources that is formed as a guardian or defender of a product, foodway, or institution. Two forms of Presidia can be recognized. One of them is the Ark, is one that promotes an art product or is built around an art product that tastes good and is potentially sustainable and has all those characteristics of an art product. The purpose of such a Presidium is to develop and foster a process that will bring the product to the table. The second type is one that's developed around a regional or agricultural production or a distribution process that exhibits traditional or historic relevant methods. The purpose of that is to preserve methods and the product that is involved. What a Presidium is not is a project that exploits the powerful marketing advantage that a slow food affiliation could offer an individual or a single organization. What is a Presidium physically? It's a slow food-led collaboration, a committee of people or organizations who apply their resources to create a project. A project that brings an art product to prominence or preserves traditional or historic methods of a region. What steps do you take in developing a Presidium? And I've taken a little bit of a license here, and this is older materials, and maybe Lisa can tell us what the current definitions and descriptions are going to be, but you identify a product that has a traditional historic method that you feel is worthy of a Presidium status. You do that in your convivium or chapter. Develop a preliminary vision of what the outcome of creating Presidium would be. What is it that could happen? And this is your marketing piece. Write a one-page description of your vision for a Presidium. What motivates you to create this Presidium? Now, this is what you take when you go out and start recruiting the people that you want to be with you. You need to maybe get a commitment from your chapter to pursue this Presidium, of course. This would include a pledge of seed money or startup activities. The next thing you do is identify the players who you think might be interested in ownership of that vision. Who can contribute to achieving the vision? Assemble the collaborators physically or electronically, obtain their buy-in to the concepts of the preliminary vision, and revise and evaluate the vision with the input of your collaborators, and then develop a list of specific objectives that you want to achieve. Establish roles for your collaborators and have them commit to the assignments. Perform a pilot project or feasibility study to prove your concepts. That's very important to try and do. As part of the Presidium development, you may be required to establish a protocol, and that is something that people find very difficult, and it was very strict in the beginning. I'm not sure how it has loosened up, if it has. Then you prepare the application and make a nomination. The macaw was that potato. The potato that we used is the Presidium that we did in the Northwest. Our partners in this thing were Slow Food Seattle. Am I over time? Okay, I'm almost done. Slow Food Seattle, I was the Presidium coordinator. Forks, which is formerly Chefs Collaborative. The USDA Agriculture Research Station. This man, Chuck Brown, is one of the major authorities on potatoes in the U.S. And he was very instrumental in helping us, providing us with the genetic material to begin to develop a virus-free. Pure Potato is a certified seed grower. Marlis Bedlington is a real scientist. She has a laboratory. She grew the potato seed from genetic material, from single cell, and brought it up so that it was a pure potato. And she has it certified in the state of Washington. And the final player was the Makah Nation. And before we even did this, Chuck Brown and I went out to the Makah Nation near Nia Bay, and we made a presentation to the elders of the Makah tribe, and we finished our presentation, and no one had any facial expression. We couldn't tell if there was any approval or anything there. But at the end of the presentation, we asked for questions, and a gentleman over at the end put up his hand and said, "Can we put our mark on it?" And that was pretty much an affirming what we were doing was something that was okay with him at least. And so we have, the potato was actually called the Ozette potato. And after that meeting, Chuck and I went to the scientific community and asked and made the assertion that we would like to add Makah Ozette potato. And that stuck, and that's what we have today. This is the Ark of potatoes. There are two of them. The Makah Ozette on the left and the Bodega Red on the right. So it was the potato out of California is also on the Ark. But what I wanted to say here is how important the Makah Ozette potato has become in our school garden programs. And that's because it has a history lesson, and it has a food lesson, a growing and a food lesson. And so it is really, you'll talk to Andy Nowak and Laura later, I think tomorrow afternoon. They buy seed and distribute it all over the United States to schools now. Thank you. I'll be open for questions later.
An interesting potato fact from our valley is that we used to be known as champion seed potato growers 100 years ago. And so there's a plaque in our local museum of a fellow by the name of Hugh Fuller, who won at the Pacific Northwest exhibition bringing his seed potatoes down. And to Seattle, I think he would take them every year. So it's kind of fun. That was really interesting, thanks. And I think, can we have a copy of that?
Yeah.
For us to put on our website so that people could refer to it? Your PowerPoint? That would be great, because it really outlines
Yeah.
really well. A confusing topic, I think, to a lot of people. Great.
And I think if you can establish the matrix as your guideline, it really helps people to make their way to a nomination.
Yeah, great, thanks. Hi, Sinclair.
I just want to say one thing quickly that I really wish we could implement. I went to the California Sacramento meeting. I went to a meeting in Sacramento. It was a fantastic meeting. And one of the high points of the meeting was that they had a breakout session for about an hour where they walked everybody through an application form step by step so that everybody in the room, and there were probably 100 people there, felt comfortable about filling out that form and moving ahead.
Okay, we are, oh, sorry, Elisa.
2 words. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that the Ark of Days could be a great tool for communities and convivia to involve people in a very active and concrete way, and even an easy way, because anyone can fill out the application form that you can find online on the Slow Food Foundation for Biodiversity website, and get committed and get involved. Then the whole work that Jerry explained is the work of the committees. That is a really important work, because otherwise we won't have the list of over 3,000 products nowadays in the Ark all over the world. But there is still a lot to do. I mean, in Canada, for example, there are only 28 Ark products listed. And I can't believe that we can only identify that little number of products. I'm sure that if any of you could come or think about even just one product that is linked to the community or to the area where they live, we will be able to grow the number and make this project effective at local level and also more effective at international level, because it's a tool and it's a project that has many different impacts, both at local level with projects like the school gardens, like the Presidia, but also at international projects from a communication point of view as a way to defend and point out those products that are linked to the communities, to the cultures, and to the native and indigenous knowledge of a country.